Now, if you live in Florida, you might have heard of New Smyrna Beach, and we all know that it's the shark bite capital of the world, but did you know at one point in time it was the safest beach in the world? Well, if you didn't, don't worry. I did some digging. Let's get into it. Now, before we get too deep into this, I gotta say that the Temuka tribe were the first ones to settle in the New Smyrna area. Just like the rest of the tribes, they were here because there was great water source. Now, we're gonna fast forward a little bit, all right, to the 1700s, 1768 to be exact. This is Andrew, Dr. Andrew Turnbull. Him and his buddy ended up buying a bunch of land along the shoreline of Florida, about 100,000 acres. And his buddy gave him 40,000 of those acres. Now, at that time, there was nothing really going on in that area of New Smyrna. So what he decided to do was go back to the Mediterranean, gather up some people, and bring them back to develop the town. Now, like I said, okay, Andrew's plan was to go over to the Mediterranean, grab up some people, okay, bring them back so they can grow some crops, build stuff, start this little town. Everything was going smooth, all right, until he hit some of them waters down in the Mediterranean. So apparently, on his way back from rounding up the people, a couple ships down there kind of hold him hostage for a little bit. They didn't really want him to leave with all these people. And he had to fight for a little bit, and with a little bit of kicking and screaming, they ended up letting him go so he can get to Florida. Now, there was a specific reason Andrew grabbed these people, because apparently this, specific group of people, they developed another town, Jamestown in New York, and he wanted them to do the same thing to New Smyrna. Now look, before we move on, gotta say this about Andrew, Dr. Andrew. He's a bad person, all right? Not only did he, bring over, the settlers from the Mediterranean, he also brought over a bunch of slaves, and he didn't treat people right. Mind you, okay? Nobody treated the slaves right, but not only did he not treat the slaves right, but he didn't treat the settlers right. That didn't go well for him. Now, like I said, these people are supposed to be working the land for Andrew, but he ain't paying them, all right? He ain't feeding them, all right? He ain't taking care of them when people get sick. He ain't providing no doctors, no health care, no nothing. He just got these people over here on this land just all willy-nilly. Now, as things go on and on, all right, the settlers of this, area of New Smyrna, they over it, okay? So they leave. So most of them, they either go to Georgia or they just leave the New Smyrna area and basically settle in other towns because they just can't take it anymore. And they need to survive, so they leave. Before we move on, all right, because I know a lot of y'all going to be asking, okay, how did New Smyrna get its name, all right? So his wife is from a place called Smyrna, all right? And just to, dedicate it to her, this new land that he got, he just decided to name it New Smyrna. Now, real quick also, all right, when he brought those 1,500 settlers over to the New Smyrna area at that time in Florida, that was the largest amount of people to actually settle into an area at one time. Usually it's about 300 people or even less than that when they start a settlement. This was the largest at that time. Now, we're going to fast forward a little bit, all right, to the 1900s, right around there, okay, the turn of the century, all right? The area of New Smyrna, it's really thriving. It's a nice little town, real quiet. Things are really going good for them. But around Prohibition time, things kind of get really illegal for New Smyrna. Now, what I mean by illegal is that the area of New Smyrna, they start really pumping out some moonshine right out the woods. And not only were they pumping out a lot, they were pumping out the best, okay? So people were coming from all over to meet up with people to grab some, really good moonshine. And I'm sitting here thinking, I did a thing on Daytona, okay? Y'all know how NASCAR started, right? With the running from the moonshine and stuff, you know what I'm saying? But they said that was up north a little bit. But I'm thinking to myself, maybe it started here too. But anyway, the reason why this area was so, good for the moonshiners is that, where it was located at, plus the woods, all right? Where it was located at, it was really hard to find them. So if the police was looking for them, or if they had to run from the police and make a quick getaway, they could do it easily coming out of the woods in New Smyrna. And listen, I gotta say this real quick. I live by New Smyrna, okay? I did not know that they had a distillery in New Smyrna that make moonshine, okay? Y'all tag them. Tell them I want to come by. Now, after Prohibition was, all finished up and everything, New Smyrna goes back to being normal, all right? Nice little town. They got a train system now. Things are starting to develop in the area. But World War II happens, and things change again for New Smyrna. Now, at this time in New Smyrna, they had a training facility here. And but it wasn't just a regular training facility. It was one of the best ones, in the country at the time. So they played a big role in the war. Now, for all my New Smyrna people, this is some cool information. This is Flagler Avenue, all right? And remember what I said at one point in time, it was the world's safest beach, all right? But in 1947, they ended up buying this beach, this whole strip of, the beach, and changing the name from Coronado Beach, which I'm probably butchering that, and changing it to actually New Smyrna Beach. And this is something that I didn't mention at the beginning, but this town of New Smyrna was 100% built just for tourists. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning, but when this town was actually put together, they built it because it was near Daytona Beach in Orlando. It was like right in that middle section. So they wanted people, to be able to have somewhere to go and actually, enjoy the beach. Thought that was some cool information that I probably should have put in there earlier. Now, fast forward to today, okay? We all know that New Smyrna Beach is one of the best beaches in Florida, okay? Even though it's the shark bite capital, but it's known for the surfing, the fishing, all right? And it's a pretty good, clean beach that you would just want to take your family to. And there's also historic things you could go do while you're in New Smyrna. This is the Sugar Mill historic site. So if you guys are in New Smyrna, go visit some of the history. It's a historic town. And if you are near New Smyrna Beach and you've never been to the beach, I'm going to give y'all a hack, okay? Especially if you got little kids. There's a section of the beach called the dog park, okay? All you got to do is walk around this little trail thing, right? And it'll lead you to the dog park. But it's a real cool section of the beach that a lot of people don't go to. Maybe now. Maybe now. Probably shouldn't have said this, but the more you know. Peace.